Alright, a quick before the video starts. I am not a coffee professional. I'm sure plenty of people know a lot more about coffee than I do. Feel free to let me know in the comments nicely how you would have done things differently, if there's something I messed up. And also, if you happen to like a coffee that I don't, that's just a difference in opinions and a difference in taste. No offense meant. I'm sure that coffee is perfectly fine for you. Now, on to the video. Hi, I'm Johnny. Welcome to Will It Brew. I'm a former barista and current coffee lover. I decided to put this project together to see if a different brewing method will make a common supermarket coffee taste better. Today I'm going to be starting with Folgers because it was given to me by someone that uh, bought the wrong roast and decided to hand it off to me and then go get the right one instead of returning it, which I have no problem with because it gave me a coffee to start with. Um, the control is going to be the drip maker because that's the way most people are going to make pre-ground coffee. I usually prefer fresh ground, but I figured maybe we can find a brew method that will help pre-ground coffee from a supermarket. Got a pour over, French press, AeroPress, and a cold brew. I've got my freshly heated kettle of water right here. So let's go ahead and let's try out the drip coffee and see how this does. Probably haven't had Folgers since a couple of years ago on a camping trip when someone brought that. Um, hmm. Yeah, that definitely would need some sugar in it to make it a drinkable coffee for even half a cup, I would think. It's definitely got room for improvement, I'll say that. So since the AeroPress rather needs the hottest water, I'm going to go ahead and get that one set up. Alright, so we are going to let this brew for 3 minutes so that we have a good extraction and hopefully a better coffee than we had with the drip coffee maker, which generally this makes a pretty good cup of coffee. It'll just be interesting to see how it does with pre-ground coffee. Get my timer going, which generally, like I said, I prefer fresh ground coffee, but figured why not test out the pre-ground. So I actually did do some research online to see how to alter the brew methods for pre-ground coffee. So hopefully this turns out at least better than the drip pot. Alright, so it's been 3 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and start pressing this. Alright. Well, it smells better. Okay, so it definitely has a little bit smoother taste. Not quite as bitter as it was with the drip. Still could definitely use some sugar, but definitely more drinkable. Which I did a 3-minute extraction time on that from what I had read online, that was a good adjustment to make for the pre-ground coffee. On to the pour over. So I've already got my 55 grams of coffee all weighed out. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. Got my freshly heated kettle of water. I'm going to go ahead and get the grounds blooming. Alright. And we're going to let that bloom for 30 seconds, which I realize generally a gooseneck kettle is a little bit better to use, a little bit better pour control, but this is what I have on hand, and I haven't gotten around to getting a gooseneck yet, so should work. Alright, so now just pour the rest of the water. We're going to go ahead and follow the recipe and do 750 milliliters, even though that's a lot more of this coffee than I'm going to want to drink. Which, one of the problems with a drip coffee maker is that sometimes the drip coffee maker doesn't get the water quite hot enough to get a good extraction. So that's why a lot of times you'll have a better extraction, better tasting coffee with a pour over, is because you can make sure the water is hot enough. Usually, if a drip coffee maker gets the water hot enough, it's towards the second half of the brewing process, so doesn't quite have the same effect on the coffee. And this is just it isn't a Chemex, it's just a regular pour over that has a metal filter, reusable filter. And it's done pretty good for me in the past, so. Alright, and there we are. So we will let that continue to brew. This generally makes a really good cup of coffee. It's usually, for me, more of a weekend kind of thing, just because it does take a little bit more preparation and all to make coffee like this than it does the drip maker. So generally speaking, this is not something I do every day, just because I'm not a morning person. I need coffee to make my coffee, kind of thing. So I think this is about ready. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off, set this to the side. Alright, let's see. Doesn't smell horrible. Yeah, that still definitely needs sugar to be drinkable. Anything, probably some cream or two. So, not really an improvement over the drip on that. Yeah, no. Alright, well, let me get a kettle of water on for the French press and see if by any chance that does any better. And then we'll move on to cold brew. Alright, so got some fresh water for my French press. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in. Got this already weighed out, so don't have to worry about doing that right now. I'm going to go ahead and add enough water for it to bloom. Stir that up a little bit. Alright. And now I'm going to wait 30 seconds for that to bloom well. Alright, so that's been 30 seconds. can go ahead and add the rest of our water. Alright. We're going to let it go for 3.5 minutes. Alright, so that's been our time on this. So let's see if the French press can help this coffee. It's not as horrible as the drip, but still would probably need a little bit of sugar. Say it's maybe a little bit better than the pour over. Not quite, maybe not quite as good as the AeroPress. I'm not sure. It's probably on par with the AeroPress. Alright, so that brings us to the final contender, which is going to be the cold brew. Now, a lot of times coffees that I've tried hot that were bad turned out decent with cold brew because it's going to be a little bit less acidic than hot. Also, we'll have more caffeine content because there's no heat to break down the caffeine. So if you like a little bit more caffeine in your coffee, cold brew isn't a horrible way to go. I've had some of them that were actually a bit smoother as a cold brew. Now, am I holding my breath for this one? No, I'm not. Actually, it is a little bit smoother. Not sure, and it doesn't make it a great coffee by any means. It would be drinkable, maybe just a little bit of sugar added to it, but yeah, might be drinkable. Maybe, maybe not. All right, so final conclusion. For me, I'd say if you absolutely, for whatever reason, are going to be using Folgers and you have the time, maybe go with the AeroPress for it. I'm going to say that's probably the better option for what I've tried today. Not the ideal coffee by any means, but add a little bit of sugar, maybe a touch of creamer, and be a passable cup of coffee. But really, I would say maybe branch out a little bit and get a little bit better coffee, which I'll be trying out a lot of different supermarket coffees to see if there's one that can, on a budget, taste good depending on the brew method. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. I've got more planned out. I've got several more episodes planned out as far as different kinds of coffees. I even plan on throwing in some teas in there. Might even do once it gets closer to Christmas, do like a holiday hot chocolate episode and just compare some of those from the store and see how they taste and see what we have. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this, what your preferred brew method is, what your preferred coffee is. Let me know in the comments below what you think of today's episode, and hopefully I'll see you again in the next one.